Mane, Mbappe, Van Dijk.
Seedorf, Aubameyang,
Samuel Eto'o, Didier Drogba,
Raheem Sterling.
Umtiti.
We all know some of the world's best players are black. But what about black coaches?
Patrick Vieira.
Thierry Henry.
In the English Premier League, more than a quarter of players are black. But in 92 coaching jobs in England last year, only 6 were held by non-white people. In Europe's top 5 leagues, only 2 out of 98 coaches are black. Why are there so few black coaches in professional football?
Alors tout d'abord, lorsque j'étais enfant, il y avait déjà des bruits de singes dans les stades. Lorsque j'étais enfant. Je suis devenu joueur de foot. Lorsque je jouais, il y avait des bruits de singes. J'ai 2 fils qui sont devenus joueurs de foot. Il y a toujours des bruits de singes dans les tribunes.
Wait, is there really racism in football? In 2020, a fan racially abusing Sterling last year and banned for life by Man City must be a coincidence. Opposition fans making monkey chants at Lukaku and his own fans defending it? Another coincidence? Alexander-Arnold, Rashford and Pogba abused in England, Balotelli in Italy, Marega in Portugal, Taison in Ukraine? Okay, that's too many coincidences.
Il faut faire très attention aussi à ne pas cantonner les choses par pays. C'est un système de pensée monde.
Unfortunately, racism is still a big issue. In fact, racist incidents in English football were up 50% in 2019 from 2018, and they doubled between 2016 and 2019. Even in newspapers, we can still see issues of racism. Some incidents might come from ignorance, while others seem more intentional.
The media treats black players very differently to white players. To black players, they ascribe a culture of nouveau riche, of bling, of wanting to be very demonstrative with money, whereas I think that the example that Raheem Sterling gave was 2 players buying their mother's houses. One was seen as an act that was a display of overt wealth. The other was seen as and judged as an act of looking after his mother.
And look, sometimes people mess up even when trying to fight racism. Like that time Serie A tried to show that we are all monkeys or something. That was so bad. All top leagues have agreed that Black lives matter. But if everybody agrees that racism is bad, why is there such a racial disparity in coaching positions? Why are black coaches still not getting the same opportunities as their white colleagues?
The reason there's not black coaches is because people have for the longest said, oh, they can play, but they can't necessarily coach, right? And whether explicitly or implicitly, right?
For a long time, there have been negative stereotypes about black players. Earlier this year, a report showed that black players are often described as more athletic. They're commonly described as having pace and power, or animal-like qualities.
Look at the blistering speed and strength of Fernandinho. What a beast!
Whereas players with lighter skin are often praised for their intelligence. The study found that 63% of criticisms for intelligence are aimed at players with darker skin.
Lukaku's intelligence really let him down there.
Is this the same Lukaku who not only speaks 8 languages, but makes great runs, and is known to constantly study the game and his opponents? Unless sports leagues are recruiting commentators from the Trump White House, then this is an example of unconscious bias.
It's about things like unconscious bias and the way in which people are conditioned by society and through how they talk or respond to people may be kind of conditioned by certain prejudices that they may have.
And this bias exists in more than just commentators. It also exists in places doing the hiring of coaches. It's easy for a league to post signs that say Black Lives Matter. It's much harder for them to look at themselves and their own unconscious biases.
But many people also then don't think that they are being racist themselves, or that their institution could be accused of exhibiting unconscious bias. So it's a statement that it's out there, and often it's out there directed at fans. So, far-right fans or fans who might say, abuse a black player or throw a banana, that type of thing. And they don't sort of take their own responsibility seriously, their own responsibility to recruit in a diverse way.
Raheem Sterling pointed out one major example. There's Steven Gerrard, your Frank Lampards, your Sol Campbells, and your Ashley Coles. All had great careers. They've all respectfully done their coaching badges to coach at the highest level. And the two that haven't been given the right opportunities are the two black former players. Lampard said he thinks Sterling was wrong, but was he?
But generally, if you were to pick apart the appointment of, say, a Frank Lampard or a Steven Gerrard, and compare that to the lack of opportunities, say, the Sol Campbell, you know that some of those factors are very much at play.
Maybe hard work Frank got his first coaching job on merit. Or maybe he got it because his uncle is a famous coach and called in a favor. The truth will never be known. But we can't just look at the coaches themselves, because if we look a little higher up the food chain, we see even bigger problems.
I think that another piece of the jigsaw we need to look at is the people at a higher level in the boardroom, because I think if we look at a lot of leagues in football, there are even fewer people who are club owners, sporting directors, chairmen or chairwomen who are from black or minority backgrounds.
Basically, one of the biggest reasons black coaches aren't getting hired is because there are so few black people involved in the hiring process.
The reality, and everybody knows about hiring bias, is that people hire people that look like them. They talk like them, they act like them, etc.
There's no diversity of thought within these institutions. They're recruiting in their own image, so therefore everybody thinks the same, and a kind of groupthink develops, which does not allow for much creativity or a challenge to many of those issues.
Michael Emenalo was one of the only black directors of football when he was at Chelsea, and he faced a lot of discrimination because of it. When I was appointed, some journalists didn't think I spoke English. They said I had never played the game. Some people said he's African, so he must have killed somebody for the owner. No one stopped to think it could possibly be because of my intellect or experience. Executives and team owners need to do more. Not only are teams possibly missing out on brilliant coaches today, but they could also be missing out on tomorrow's brilliant minds.
The main issue and why we don't see a lot of black coaches is, first and foremost, visibility. They feel like they actually can because they've seen somebody in that position. And those people then inspired the next generation. And so as it becomes more tangible for young people to see people in those positions, soccer coaches all across the world, we will start to see an influx of people into those positions.
Representation matters. Saying Black Lives Matter is important, but the work cannot end with just slogans. Teams and leagues need to do more.
The Premier League really pays more attention to sending out a symbolic anti-racism message rather than addressing the lack of representation of minorities. It's one of the reasons why we haven't moved faster. People think that we need to keep making anti-racist gestures rather than the hard work of diversifying, bringing new people in, changing the culture.
So what can be done? How do we change the culture? One regularly discussed tactic is the Rooney Rule. What is the Rooney Rule? Is it a rule that says every team has to interview Wayne Rooney? The Rooney Rule is an NFL policy. It says teams must interview one ethnic minority candidate for every head coaching job.
The Rooney Rule is really important because we have to look at bias from a structural standpoint. And in order to change that, you have to institute something.
And there's other ways teams and leagues can get more diverse too.
I think you need to publish this data, be transparent, be open. People will see your mistakes. People will see how you're not hitting those targets, but then also help you to do that.
So, what did we learn? Racism is still a serious problem in football, but racism doesn't comprehensively explain the problem. Until teams and leagues look at themselves and commit to diverse hiring practices, Frank Lampard will get all the jobs? What? No. But black coaches will continue to have less opportunities. And that's because of the negative stereotypes around them as players and as coaches. And honestly, that's just not fair. Black coaches in the NBA and the NFL have already shown their ability to succeed.
A real meritocracy would come with recognizing someone's talent, giving them the opportunity, the space to flourish, and to fail in the same way as their white peers. Not to treat them special, not to rely on exceptional individuals to emerge.